Yani Madad, everyone, and welcome to this Zoom session with Dr. ABDUL HASSAM. It's a question and answer session today, Monday, September 7th, 2020. We will begin now with the Ginan recitation. Iti avine besone gothari kari Pata pujine dhyana jadhari gatamai avine amira sapije nito nita sahiba Nujinona maliji avine besone gothari kari Iji Guruji tamane Batavya ginana satapantha maragani avi chishana bandagi karani sarajyo sansaram munivara samjote ginana vichara avine besone kothari kari Iji gatamahe japatapa gatamahe jugati gatamahe amirasa gatamahe mugati hema Sari jo kasani kariye Bane pira ali akbar bega para utariye Avine besone gothari kariye. The translation of the verses that I recited. Come and be seated in Jamaat Khana and have hearty conversations with a guide. After observing the ceremonies at the path, maintain your concentration entirely upon whatever is being observed. Come to the congregation and drink the holy water, Abe-Safa. Recite and remember the name of the Lord constantly. The guide has shown you the Ginan, divine knowledge and wisdom, and therefore the exalted station of the true path has been glorified. For the sake of worship or servanthood of the Lord has created the world. O believers, understand and contemplate on the Ginans, the divine knowledge and wisdom. In Jamaat Khana, there is remembrance of the Lord and Bandagi. And in Jamaat Khana, there is salvation and freedom. The ones who undergo trials and tests like gold will cross over the limits of material existence. This is taught by Bir Ali Akbar Beg. Dr. Hassam?
Yes, Lakshmi, I'm here. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so we are ready to start.
Okay. What a beautiful and wonderful Gnan, Lakshmi, and thank you for sharing that with the audience today.
Thank you.
This is truly a melodious Gnan, but in addition to its melody and its pleasantness in every way, as you have read in the translation, this Gnan leaves no doubt from the holy peers as to the benefits that we derive when we attend our Jumat Khana. I realize this is a Q&A session, but I think I feel it important that at the beginning of every session, just to add a few gems of wisdom, hopefully, that enables us to continue building the understanding of the practice of our tariqah, and how blessed that we are that by the blessing and mercy of Hazrat Imam, that we are continuing this incredible tradition of high spiritual knowledge and wisdom that we call holy Ginans. And in these Ginans, as you can see, how much light there is. And one of the fundamental message that you have heard today in this Ginan that ALWAAZ Lakshmi has recited is that the path of salvation, the path of Noor, lies in Jumat Khana. Obviously and evidently, because it is the house of Noor. And many of the details that are given in this Ginan, you can understand from these details that nothing that we do in the practice of our faith is haphazard. Everything that we do, rather, it is directed, guided, explained, and it is ordained by divine will, meaning that there is nothing for us to make up, to invent, to fabricate, or simply to come up with random meanings. Everything our holy peers have explained to us for the purposes of our practice. And that is the reason why, one of the reasons amongst others that I have often mentioned, is that our holy peers have composed this Ginan as a way of high spiritual wisdom, hakikat and marifat, to guide us to the path of Noor, and how we should behave, how we should supplicate, how we should understand, how we should enlighten ourselves, how we should be on the path of this salvation with this illuminated knowledge of the holy Ginans that comes from the Noor and that is intended to illuminate our own hearts and our intellect. And as our beloved Imam has said to us, that the meanings of the Ginan should be carried in our hearts. And we must make every effort, every single day, that you take at least one little step, one little part of the meaning in your heart. Because remember, when our beloved Imam makes a holy farman, and in that farman he gives us guidance as to what we should do, how we should practice of our faith. And in this case, I am specifically referring to the farman that our beloved Imam said, carry the meaning of the Ginan in your hearts, and it is for generations and generations yet to be born. Then those meanings that we select, that part of Ginan that you recite and seek to find meaning from, it will bring light into your heart. And by that light, your spirit, your soul will be elevated. That is the power of the Ginans. That is the Amra, the divine command of the Imam. And that divine command is loaded with blessings, with barakat. When Mawla says to his murid a certain thing, an explanation, by way of farman, by way of hidayat, that farman, that hidayat is super loaded with Mawla Bapa's blessing. And those blessings, they irradiate, they illuminate, they bring nur and light into our intellect and into our hearts. This is the power of Holy Ginans. This is the power of Mawla's Amra and command. One more point I should like to add, that remember, our holy peers, as explained to us by Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, this path, the path of Satpant, the path of Sirat al-Mustaqim, was not a path just randomly available. This is a path that has always been there from the beginning of creation, but has always been the path, as the Holy Quran says, that Allah guides to His light whom He pleases. I repeat, Allah guides to His light, meaning Allah guides to His nur whom He pleases. And the practice of our tariqah is based on that very nur. And therefore, we must be grateful to our holy peers who opened up the path for us, and the peers who have taken and dedicated their ibadat, their lives, for the upliftment and salvation of our own souls. And this grace and this mercy that has come from the Holy Imam through the peers, we are enjoying today. And the point of me mentioning this to everyone is to say that do not let a single day go by where you have not expressed your shukrana, your gratitude, and say to Mawla, Subhanallah, Shukran Lillah, Walhamdulillah Mawla, for allowing us to be on the path that Allah says that He guides to His nur. Only Him whom Allah is pleased with. And the fact we are in the path of Sirat al-Mustaqim and on this path of nur, and I keep repeating, as the Holy Quran says, Allah guides to His light whom He pleases. Say shukrana. Say shukrana. And don't let a day go by where you did not remember the holy farman of Imam Jafar Sadiq sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who said to us, there is no higher means of expressing your dedication and worship than expressing your gratitude and your shukrana to the Holy Imam for allowing us to be into his path, which is the path of Nur and the path of Sirat al-Mustaqim. And in that regard, our beloved Imam says to us, my beloved spiritual children, let us be humble, let us recognize, and let us accept, and let us practice our faith with utmost conviction as to how our beloved Imam has enabled us this holy path for our material and our spiritual success and salvation. More to come in future lectures about this. For today, these are some of the notes I wanted to make, and I would urge you, please study the Ginan that was recited by ALWAAZ Lakshmi today. It's a very important Gnan, and it is a Gnan that really has tremendously deep wisdom. And you have heard in the translation that it says, contemplate on the deep wisdom that is in the holy Gnans, because that is what Gnans is all about. It is the amazing gift that we have received to bring spiritual light, nur, and higher spiritual wisdom, marifat, and the hakikat into our intellect and illuminate our hearts. And that is so unique. And we will be able to, with Mola's mercy and grace down the road, be able to bring many more aspects of the Gnan in various presentations. Before we go on into the questions and answers, I just want to remind the listeners today that we are trying to put in place a, if I can use the word, a discipline about the culture of time, because many times my presentations have gone on for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, sometimes 3 hours, and I fully realize, and with the feedback we have received, they tend to be very long, and it's difficult even down the road for people to listen to the recordings and so on. So we have decided we will try to close the session within an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes, but that will be the decision of the host. In this case today, Lakshmi will decide at her discretion when to do that, but we are trying to do that. And this means that some of the lectures may take 2 or 3 parts to complete. Now, for example, tomorrow evening's lecture, evening meaning from the Pacific, 8 p.m. Pacific time for now, and other time zones, the lecture for tomorrow is going to be on the battle of the soul, the virtues versus the vices. Now, I'm taking a few minutes today to explain to you, because the reason for this lecture is the multiple questions that I have received related to this area, but in relationship to understanding the concept of the mind from a spiritual perspective. So the lecture that will begin tomorrow night will be in 3 parts. Hopefully not more, but it will be in 3 parts. And because we have shortened the length of the lectures, so people have the comfort of going back, listening, and then going to the next part the following week. So the lecture will seek to explain and respond to the question that many people have. Many people are saying that, how do we control our mind? How do we control our thoughts? What is the function and purpose of the mind? And how can the mind be better used for the purpose of our spiritual practice? And in fact, where is the mind emanating from? And what are these vices and these virtues? And how do they impact the mind? And why are we so drawn in one or the other in different ratios or proportion? And how does that affect everything that we do in our physical and our spiritual life? And many people have a problem, and they have a question related to the memory, related to the mind and the function. And some people have said to me, we have this constant chatter of the mind. Some people have said to me that we have uncontrolled thoughts that come in and out. Where do they come from and why are they there? And people say we are struggling with this aspect of our mind in our practices. Is there a way that we have some understanding about it? So this particular lecture beginning tomorrow night, the battle of the soul, meaning the whole notion of vices versus virtue, all related within the context of how we understand our mind and eventually, of course, the soul, because this is the battle of the soul. And what does that mean in actual practice? Because there is a lot of theories about mind, even in Western psychology. I may bring one or two that are perhaps relevant, but more significantly in this context is for you to understand and to know is that there is a neuroscience of the mind that is today that validates traditional spiritual understanding about how the mind functions and what function the mind plays in relationship to our body-mind complex. And it is an amazing field. It is an amazing understanding. And hopefully we can take advantage of understanding this whole aspect. It is my hope, with Mawla's mercy and grace, if I succeed, to be able to give you some framework within which you can look at that framework and see how it applies to you, and hopefully have a better comprehension and understanding about these functions of what we do. So that will be tomorrow night's lecture, part 1, continuing to part 2 and part 3. So perhaps if the interest is even more, there is more to be said about it, but we will leave that for now and see how that goes. So thank you for your attention thus far about what I wanted to say, and let us now go straight into the questions and answers. So Lakshmi, back to you, and please begin at your discretion.
Okay, thank you. So I will, because you had started talking about the Ginan, we'll start with the Ginan questions that were submitted. One of the question is, one Ginan stanza you recited in one of the session. I quote, Iman Amaro Salamatara Khajo. Some people say, Iman Amaro Sabitara Khajo. What is the meaning? What is the meaning difference?
Yes. Sometimes people interchange words. And I know sometimes I myself make that error in a sense that we say a certain word, but actually the original word is different. If you look at this Ginan from its origin point of view, so to speak, the word used in Ginan, it says, Iman Amadu Sabit Rakjo. So this is a supplication. This is a supplication by the Holy Peers in many different Ginans, including this one, that basically says to the Holy Imam that keep our faith. Now the word actually is sabit, not salamat. There are two different words. Sabit is keep it intact, keep it firm, keep it uncompromising, keep it like rock solid. Nothing should shake it, like a mountain. It's firm, it's fixed. The word sabit is so strong. Salamat, of course, means safety, keep it safe. And that is also true, because in this day and age, it's very easy to become unsafe. So our peers are supplicating the Imam, and you know that we recite this Ginan many times when Maula Bapa comes for Didar, Mulakat, and when Maula Bapa is leaving. What are we asking him amongst many things? We are saying, Maula, keep my faith solid like a rock on you. Do not compromise, do not allow anything to compromise my faith. Sabit. And when we recite this Ginan, we must remember that faith, Iman, is a gift from Maula Bapa to his murids. You cannot buy faith. You cannot simply think that you can do things and therefore take faith. You cannot do anything other than pray for it. You have to supplicate and pray for it. This is why our holy peers in our faith are very clear, and they are supplicating, they are beseeching, they are annihilating themselves before the holy Imam and saying to Mawla that, Mawla, nothing is more important in the whole of my life and creation than you giving me the gift of faith on you. That Mawla Bapa, I want to be faithful to you. And I want to have faith in the dharam, in the satpant that you have shown us. Keep my iman, keep my faith sabit. Keep my faith sabit. And in that context, that faith becomes the objective of our salvation and both also of our material well-being and material success.
Thank you. So then another question on the Ginan. Where would we be able to get information on when to recite which Ginan?
Now, the information actually exists in different places in some of the various Ginans that we have. Now, not until so long ago, until people started mixing up everything, and I contacted a very good friend of mine and an individual whom I also consider a mentor, is Mr. Shabuddin Tanani, and I have to give him credit for that, because at some point in the past, he showed me a book in his collection that was called Ragmara. And this book is a compilation of all the Ginans that we have in terms of indicating what the Ginans are in terms of showing the first one or two verses of each Ginan, and thereby also indicating the ragas of the Ginan. Hence, the book is called Ragmara. And this book has some great indications, and it needs to be studied, it needs to be analyzed. But simply to tell you that certainly our missionaries of the past had done a great study of it, of the Ginan as a whole, and they have, by the teachings of our peers, clearly indicated to us. And some of the Ginan reciters today who are musically inclined understand this, including, I must say, our host today, Lakshmi. She has great understanding and knowledge of this, that there are different Ginans that are recited with different ragas for the purpose of being in harmony with different time zones, if I can use that term, or different times of the day. So there are two things. There is the Ginan that is intended for a certain time and the message that is consistent for that time. And at the same time, there is the content of the Ginan that also gives meaning and understanding of where the Ginan is actually positioned. And if I can just maybe add one or two point of explanation, you know that everything in nature, and for that matter in creation, and that includes the human being, and that includes every living form, and that includes everything in nature, it is what we say cyclic, meaning it is seasonal. It is seasonal. Look at the 4 seasons, for example. We are about to be in the fall, and there is winter, then there is spring, back to summer. Everything is cyclic. And then you have the cycle of the months, you have the cycle of the week, you have the cycle of the day, and within the cycle of the day, you have the day and night, and within this day and night, and within that month, you have this biological factor known as the circadian rhythm, and that is a rhythm that is related to the rhythm of nature. Now, you may be wonderfully surprised, our holy peers, who are the highest in creations, imagine their knowledge. We are nothing. We are not even the dust of the dust of the dust of the dust of the dust. We have only whatever Mawla has blessed us with to the extent of our capacity. But imagine the knowledge that is coming from the Nur, from the holy peers, who are the highest in creations. They have given us these ginans that are consistent with the rhythm of nature and creation. Such is the impact of the ginans. I'm so happy that this question has come, because it is so significant in understanding more and more about the blessing and the significance of the ginans that we have. So I will leave it at that, because I could go on for the whole time speaking about this whole harmony and rhythm and, if you like, the consistency between the human mind, body, mind, spirit rhythm with nature and creation through the ginans.
Very interesting. I think we will need a session on specifically on that.
I agree.
In one of our future sessions, inshallah. Now I'll go into the question related to Farman and Quran. In one Farman from Sultan Muhammad Shah, that there are 40 sipara, but 30 are visible and the remaining 10 are in the Ginan. Is it in the Imam's Farman? It's a confirmation request.
This is rather a long but also very sensitive subject, and it, like every spiritual matters, it requires some spiritual understanding, and it requires contextualizing information in the right framework so that we do not end up with polarities of understanding, and we do not end up with fragmentation of what is intended. You know very well, in the past, I have tried to explain the levels of meaning that exist in the Holy Quran. And not only I, but even if you have heard some of the lectures by Professor Khalil Andani, because Quran, it is his field, he has explained academically and even to much extent theologically the whole view and perspective about the Holy Quran. And I think, in my humble understanding, I would request you, whenever you have the time, you must try to listen and understand that perspective. It is fundamentally important, so your mind doesn't shut. Your mind stays open, but you are able to put that into the proper context of our understanding. Now, to respond to the question, which is a very important question, it is said, and of course it is a fact, because, and I use the word fact with capital F-A-C-A-T, it is a fact, because it is confirmed by the holy Imams, and it is of course in our Ginans also, that initially when the Holy Quran was revealed to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was revealed in 40 parts or sections. So there were 40 sections to it. The Quran that we have today is known as Sipara. Si in Persian means 30, para means section, if you like. So 30 sections. So from a spiritual perspective, it is said that access to that knowledge that exists in the 30 sections of the Quran is exactly that. It is the knowledge of the, by and large, the exoteric. Because the Quran itself doesn't mention any esoteric part. It is exoteric. In other words, it is the Zahir. Now remember, Imam Jafar Sadiq sallallahu alayhi wasallam was asked, what is in the Quran? And the Holy Imam replied, there are 4 things in the Quran: Ibara, Ishara, Lataif, and Haqaiq. And Ibara is for people who read the Quran very literally. Very literally. They look at the words and the sentence of the Holy Quran and they read it in a very literal meaning, and they're happy with that and they stop at that. And the Holy Imam say, this kind of meaning is for the masses, the larger part of people who read the Quran and are satisfied in that kind of reading, and they gain whatever they are supposed to gain from that level of understanding. Then there is the second level known as Ishara. And Ishara refers to the fact that this is for the intellectual elite. The intellectual who says, let me dig more into this meaning. Because in many places in the Quran, Allah speaks about the extended meaning in terms of symbols and parables and deeper meaning. So the intellectual elite, using their literary, poetical, scientific, and other forms of guided knowledge, they seek to penetrate the inner meaning of what is said literally. So it is a kind of intellectual exercise. It is a kind of intellectual analysis or synthesis for them to understand deeper and further how do these words, sentences, verses, chapters or ayats applies to the individual in the current context and what it meant when it came and so on. So they seek teachings from the Quran. That is the second kind of level, the Ishara. And then there is the level, the third level, our beloved Imam says, it is Lataif. That level of understanding is for people who have gone into an intellectual search compounded by a spiritual motive, a spiritual norm, and through the level of their spiritual achievement are able to penetrate and draw from it a spiritual meaning. And many mystics in Islam, through their spiritual practices, have been able to draw a deeper, more spiritual understanding of what the Quran is all about. And such great mystics, people like Jalaluddin Rumi, people like Ibn Arabi, people like Hafiz, and many others, including many of the Ismaili da'is and missionaries of the past. They have been able to give meanings. Of course, within the Ismaili context is a little different, which I'm coming to it in a second. So the notion of Lataif is related to spiritual grace, spiritual wisdom that comes in reading the Quran. And then comes the fourth and highest level, which is Haqaiq, which is the plural of Hakikat, the supreme truth, the ultimate reality. That truth, that reality, that Hakikat is known only to the Imam of the time. Please say salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. And through the grace and mercy of Hazar Imam, that Hakikat is revealed to the holy peers. Now remember, the peers are from the same Nur. So they possess that very knowledge of the Hakikat, which they have given to us in the holy Ginans. So the point of the question is, those parts that are considered the 10 remaining sections that contains the batin, the inner meaning of the Holy Quran, is given to us by the holy peers, by the authority of the holy imams into the Ginans. Do you see why we recite Ginan in Jamaat Khana? It is the inner meaning. It is not only the tafsir, but it is the batin, the hakikat of the Holy Quran that eventually gives us the avenue and opens the path to go into the marifat, meaning the actual experience of that knowledge at the level of our spirit and soul. So, yes, there is 40 sections. Most of those who are not in our tariqah experience the 30 sections at whatever level, but the hakikat and marifat of the inner meaning, the batin, is with the imam. It stays with the imam. It has always been. And that is what Hazrat Ali sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to people at that time, that this inner knowledge, this inner meaning that was with the imam and always has been, and that was also with the Prophet, that was basically entrusted to the Holy Prophet. And when the whole history of the Quran was revealed eventually, it goes to show, and I'm just telling you in very brief, okay, extremely, people decided to remain with those 30 sections, and the 10th section basically remained with Hazrat Ali, and Hazrat Ali kept those 10 sections, and only those who seek to understand that inner meaning through those 10 sections of the Quran come to Hazrat Ali or to the Imam of the time. Now, before I continue, let me be explicitly clear. This understanding is not intended in any way whatsoever for anyone to start creating divisions about whether what is and is not in the Quran. That is not the point. We are not into that kind of dialogue, nor are we interested in any shape or form into any of those kinds of controversies. Because remember, we follow the path that our beloved Imam has explained to us. It's the path of unity. Yes, there is pluralism in understanding, but it is a path of unity. And the whole idea for us, meaning for the murids of the Imam in our tariqah, the Shia Imami Ismaili Islam, is to firmly understand and firmly be convinced and practice with conviction that Mullah Bapa himself, the Imam of the time himself, is the spoken Quran. Mullah Bapa is the spoken Quran, Quran-e-Natiq. The book of the Quran is the silent Quran, Quran-e-Samit. So for us, it makes no difference whatsoever, because remember what the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. I'm leaving behind you two things. I'm leaving behind you the book of God, which was the Quran, and I'm leaving behind you my progeny, meaning the Imamat, the Ahlul Bayt, the Itrat, and both of them are tied together. So think about this in your mind. The Holy Quran and the Imamat, as the Holy Prophet instructed, They are tied together and they will never be separated. They're always together. That means for us, we who are the murid of the Imam of the time, we look at this thing holistically. And whatever Maulana Bapa tells us is the spoken Quran. So we don't have any dilemma, we don't have any difficulty, we don't have any issues, we don't have any controversy, nothing. Even though the history of the compilation of the Quran speaks about many historical, literary, and other polemical aspects of how the compilation came to be. And we cannot ignore the facts of history. And even Sunni authors. And there is one German scholar, if I remember his name correct, his name was von Denferer. And he translated a book known as Kitab al-Ulum al-Quran. And this book, which was by a Sunni writer, Kitab al-Ulum al-Quran, has many pieces that are very descriptive about the kind of concern that happens during when the Quran might have been compiled and translated, and so on and so forth. And there are many such scholars of a time who have produced books related like that. And this is not special to the Quran. Remember when Isa Nabi, Prophet Jesus sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when the Gospels were revealed to him, there is also the history of the compilation of the Gospels or the Injil. And 60 or 70 years after the death of Prophet Jesus alayhi salam, only then the 27 books of the Bible that we know today came to be. But there were many other books that were not excluded. For example, the Gospels of Barnabas, the Book of Enoch, and there are other suhuf, other scrolls and papers found down in history. The Nag Hammadi manuscripts is another example. The Dead Sea Scrolls and many other things to confirm and deny and controversies and so on. The interesting history about scriptural, the history of theology of scriptures. So the Quran is not unique that people speak about it in that way. And there are other examples also. So the point I'm trying to make is this, that we do not in our tariqah in any way whatsoever have an issue with the Quran that is there in the Muslim world for all Muslims. And as you well know, Maulana Bapa in the Golden Jubilee clearly has mentioned that he has undertaken the translation, a new translation of the Quran for the Jamaat, so that we may better understand the scriptures based on our tariqah. And remember, this is done under the guidance of the holy Imam of the time. So we have we are at perfect comfort without any sense of a discrepancy or division or creating any kinds of polemics. We accept it the way the Imam has explained to us over history. And Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah in the memoirs has said many beautiful things about the Quran. And Maulana Bapa spoke about in the memoirs, he says, you know, there are multiple interpretations, as Maulana Bapa has said, thousands and thousands and thousands of interpretation over history. And Maulana Bapa said, may Allah forgive any mistaken interpretation by any other community. So, coming back to the question very specifically, if you are really interested in the 40 paras altogether, then look at the Holy Ginans and look at the guidance and teachings of the Holy Imam over history, because remember what our constitution says, it is the Imam of the time who gives the ta'wil of Allah, ta'wil and ta'lim of Allah's final message to mankind. So when we look at the Holy Quran, it is Mola Bapa himself who gives the hakikat and the marifat, which is the tawil, and the talim, whatever teachings come out of it. Only Mola Bapa is the one to us in our tariqah that guides us into that talim. So we must always, in every way, in every breath, in every step of our spiritual and intellectual illumination and development, listen clearly to the messages of the Holy Imam, particularly in the Holy Farmans. And as I've said to you before, please study the speeches of Mola Bapa. Go into the various institutional sites where the speeches are there and look at and understand and try to imbibe the knowledge and the explanation our beloved Imam is giving into the speeches he has given over time. They are extremely, extremely important for our general education of the Jamaat and the community at large. Study Mola Bapa's speeches and keep Mola Bapa's farman in your heart and in your intellect so that you may remain in the path of Sirat al-Mustaqim and for salvation. Because that in itself is part of the hakikat of the Holy Quran and part of those 10 paras.
Thank you. We have one last question on the Quran, which was submitted. Would you say that the spoken word of the Quran is word of Allah and the written Quran is the word of the prophet or the peer? After that, there are two persons who have raised their hands. We'll take the question from the participant after you have answered this question, okay?
All
Is
right.
that okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
So let it be very clear. The revelation that came to the Holy Prophet, and I'm speaking in general terms, the revelation that came to the Holy Prophet in the cave of Mount Hira through the angel Gabriel, they are the word of Allah. They are Allah's word. To use our own terminology or language, so to speak, they came from the Nur. It was a revelation of the Nur to the Holy Prophet. And they are Allah's word. The Holy Prophet, being the Prophet of God, being a Rasul, meaning being a messenger, the messenger of God, the messenger who brought this revelation to mankind, they are Allah's word. So you can look at it from the prophetic point of view and said, the Holy Prophet received this message, and this is the message as a messenger of Allah revealed to the people. Now, in his capacity as a prophet, as a final prophet of God to mankind, and in his spiritual capacity of the peer, it doesn't change his identity. So you can't divide and say, this is the spoken word and this is the written word. No, it's only one. It is that same very word. It doesn't change. And it is completely and totally Allah's revelation that the Holy Prophet spoke. So we do not make a differentiation and we do not make a division. Because remember, Allah's word is Allah's word. But what do they mean? That may be a different question. Is it ibara? Is it ishara? Is it lataif? Is it haqa'iq? That is the inner interpretation. And remember, as I've said, these are different levels of understanding. So that is a different, it's correlated, but it's a different issue. It doesn't change the words given to the Holy Prophet as a revelation that came from Allah, and that revelation is what all Muslims believe, including us, to be what was revealed to the Holy Prophet. And the Imam has confirmed that. Next one, Lakshmi.
Habiba Batiwala, are you ready to ask your question?
Yeah, first and foremost, Alimadad, sorry. I wanted to know, like, is Ginan, when you say Ginan, then would that be considered as a part of, like, Ibadat, something like that? Like,
Yes, definitely, with absolute certainty. Because remember, just like Farman, which comes from Mola Bapa himself, and Mola Bapa says that his Noor has indicated to us. In the same way, the holy peers who have the Noor of Nabuwat in them, when they have given us these ginans, which, as I have explained a few minutes ago, they are the hakikat and marifat for our spiritual understanding and path. Because they come from the Noor, Ginan bolo nite Noor-e bhariya. These ginans, when we recite them, they are intended for our spiritual knowledge, higher spiritual knowledge, marifat, and for our salvation. Most definitely, Mola Bapa accepts it as our ibadat when we recite the ginans. So it is a very important function. Because remember, let me give you the other link. Whatever we do in the context of our practice, like in Jumat Khana, it's all considered part of our ibadat for our spiritual and worldly growth, enlightenment, and satisfaction. And particularly ginans, because it has a lot of love, devotion, knowledge, wisdom, hakikat, marifat, about all kinds of knowledge. And knowledge always goes with ibadat.
Okay, about a request I have, like whenever you, give a lecture on any topic, please try to give us the synopsis either at the end or in the beginning, so we can follow, like cover up all the points, the main points. At the end, it would be better, like whenever you speak about something, like if you gave us all the detailed points, it would be more, easier for us to understand. To comprehend. Not the question of comprehending. At the time, we do understand, but when we try to go over the work, it's easier, to follow and remember. The memory comes back better.
Yes, yes. Thank you. This is a very good suggestion, and I will try my best, always given the time constraint that we have, to add some, specific references and pointers about the information that is being presented. And if that is what you are intending, it's a very, very good suggestion. Thank you for that.
And thank you.
Yes, and also when we are sending, can I add? When we are sending the link to you, we have the synopsis a little bit in the content of the lecture, okay? But yes, we will try to make it a little bit more in detail. Salima Surani Lalani, are you
ask one more question?
If there are other questions, I will give you to raise again your hand afterwards, yeah?
Okay, sure, thank you.
Salima, are you ready?
Yes, Alimadad.
Salima.
Missionary Sahib, you just talked about Quran, the 10 chapters which we don't have in the Quran book, which speaks about only Hazrat Ali and the Imamat, was a surah called Surah Walaya. I just want to confirm which all our peers have explained that surah in the Ginan. They have given the batin meaning of that surah in Ginan, and which Sultan Muhammad Shah has spoke about it. Is that the Surah Walaya?
I don't specifically remember any farman that mentions the word by name of Surah Walaya. But I think one thing you should know, which is again a kind of a spiritual thing, and even the Quran as it is, based on what you are saying. Throughout the Quran, there is inner meaning that refers to Mullah Murtaza Ali in so many different ways. And many Shias, not only those who are in our tariqah, but I'm talking about other Shias, they have been very explicit into their understanding and their digging about the mentions of Mullah Murtaza Ali in the Quran itself without having to go elsewhere. But most definitely in our Holy Ginan, based on the farman of the Imam, that the Imam says every verse of the Quran can be equated to every verse of the Ginan. And that equation is very important for us to understand. And many Ismaili missionaries of the past and Da'is and some of the recent past have done some work to indicate that. So yes, there is that equation and there is that reference.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, ALWAAZ.
Next is Faiza. You have one question from a participant, yes?
I do. ALWAAZ Lakshmi, ALWAAZ Dr. HASSAM.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you. I've received a question from one of our participants today, and I would like to ask on their behalf. So the question goes, there is a wa'az by Abu Ali which talks of how the young generation don't understand the significance of JK and Niyaz when they complain around hygiene, around using the same piali for Niyaz. He said, no one will get sick from drinking Niyaz from the same piali. If we translate that to the current situation with coronavirus, some people don't feel it's safe to return to JK. Historically, the Imams have sent tasbihs for certain plagues and calamities. This time around, we have not been given anything specifically for this virus, albeit we have our normal tasbihs for Mushkil Asan. What is your view on this, please?
Well, first of all, I must say that these fears expressed by, if it is, younger people, these fears are real and they are of concern. And I fully acknowledge that these fears are there. And I also know in this particular period, I have received many messages, verbally and otherwise, by many people, particularly younger people, who have in one shape or form kind of expressed those fears. Now remember one thing, whatever the circumstances may be, and I'm speaking generally first, about the condition in which sometimes society comes to be, it is always under the guidance and direction of the Imam of the time that we adapt and we move on with our practices without having to feel that we have compromised anything. And please remember one thing, let us not forget, more than any one of us put together, more than anyone can ever imagine, think, analyze, or know, our beloved Imam, who is always so concerned about the well-being of the Jamaat, worldly and spiritually. The Imam knows exactly what he should say to the Jamaat and how the Jamaat should behave itself and how the Jamaat should react and how the Jamaat should take into consideration the situation that is existing into their own environment, societally speaking, and how to basically integrate the context of the faith within those circumstances. So my first reaction is that the messages that our beloved Imam has sent to the Jamaat globally related to COVID-19, for example, it's abundantly clear. I don't think anybody needs any explanation from that, in a sense that go back, read, reread, 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 and reread. And if you have any concern or you wish to seek explanation on those messages from the Holy Imam, I would say to you, please contact our institutions, because these messages for the global Jamaat has come through our institutions, and the institution is responsible to guide the Jamaat into those domains and into those practices. So I would say, do not hesitate. You can call our institutions and let the responsible department of the institution guide you based on the messages that Mullah Bapa has sent to the Jamaat globally and worldwide. In that context, let me take an example of the recent past. Many of you may remember when the SARS virus, which is related to this coronavirus in some shape or form, when that SARS virus many years back came, and there were rules and directives given by the health authorities to the provinces concerned. And because it was a directive and a rule set by the authorities, and I'm talking about the government, provincial authorities, it was necessary for the Jamaat to understand how those rules would apply. To cut a long story short, the Imam of the time had authorized the institution to allow the Jamaat to take niyaz in Jamaat Khana in bottles and take it home. So, who has the authority to make a change in the form? The Imam. And the Imam decided based on what would be best for the Jamaat to remain in compliance with the rules by the authorities. The Imam guided the institutions to do what was necessary for the protection, safety, and compliance of the Jamaat. Today, we are into the same kind of situation, and our beloved Imam has amply guided the whole Jamaat globally, and the institutions are implementing this guidance for the benefit, protection, and compliance of the rules and regulations that we are supposed to for the COVID-19. So, to answer the question specifically about fears going to Jamaat Khana, having said what I said, I would say to you that if the Imam of the time has decided that we can reopen Jamaat Khanas in the way that they have been reopened, and we are following the guidelines and especially the directive our beloved Imam has given, then I say to the younger people or anyone and everyone concerned, if you have trust, if you have faith in what the Imam says, and if you have the conviction that our beloved Imam is always concerned about our safety, our well-being, our growth, our protection, and our benefit spiritually and materially, then I would say to you, have no fear. If you wish to attend Jamaat Khana and you understand what I have said, and you say to yourself, I have my Imam's blessing, protection, grace, and I have my Imam's best blessings and understanding at heart that this is for my well-being spiritually and materially, then I should have no fear whatsoever to go to Jamaat Khana, because the institution responsible for the safety of the Jamaat also are doing the best they have done to the best in value and implementation and compliance for the safety. So I have no fear. And when it comes to niyaz, on the day it's been distributed, it's all done in compliance. And you can take that niyaz at home because it's given to the Jamaat in separate bottles, not in the pyali. And you should have no doubt whatsoever, 100% confidence that you are completely safe if you follow all the instructions and directive given to you by those who are in the Jamaat for that purpose and in Jamaat Khana. Let me also make sure that I don't miss the other question about when we are drinking niyaz from the pyali. This is a spiritual matter, and you must understand it with some spiritual maturity. Think about it in this way first. Do you think, and I'm asking you a very logical question, and you can answer it to yourself. Do you think he, the holy Imam, who is the Noor of Allah, who gives his Noor in the form of this holy water, which we call Niyaz or Abe Safa. I repeat, Noor in the form of holy water, which what the Imam gives as a blessing to the Jamaat. Do you think the Imam does not know if the Jamaat is going to face a risk like transmission of germs? Now, be honest, be sincere to yourself, be open to know, to analyze, to think that we are talking about the Imam giving us this blessing. Does that blessing contain a risk of contamination? Now, I can give you a whole lecture on that, but I'm not going to do that. What I would like you to do is, if I may please request you, is use your logic, use your intellect, use your understanding. And I repeat, this is a divine grace, mercy given to the believer through this medium that we call Abe Safa and Niyaz, which is the Noor of the Imam in the context, in the flow of water, which has multiple beautiful symbolism to understand. Do you really think that Mola Bapa himself, him being the Imam, who calls us his spiritual children, he, the Imam, who is the Noor, who gives us this blessing, and which is his mercy and grace, that he, Mola Bapa, is going to put you in any kind of a risky scenario or situation for germ contamination through our spiritual practice. Think about it. It's a matter of the intellect, logic, and it's a matter of conviction, which is what our faith is based on our intellect. Now, this is not the time or the place for me to give you a deeper inner meaning of the whole ceremony of Ghatpat. You know, it's always important, our inner meaning of things like practices, they not be discussed overtly in public, and I don't like to do this. But in response to the question, I should have to say this to you, that just as you don't fear during this COVID period, do not fear when Niyaz is partaken through Pyali. Because if you have that fear, then the question that is put to the person or to the persons asking such question is to say, can you bring any evidence for the thousands of years, and I mean really thousands and thousands of years, that Niyaz has been partaken in this particular way, that anyone has fallen sick? bring an evidence. And I can assure you, you will never find it, because there isn't. It is the opposite. People who have been mortally sick, people who have been sick to the point that you can't even imagine, they have been cured by Abi Safa. So I will leave it at that. Like I said, I would love to go into the description, but perhaps let me just add one point in the argument of what I'm saying, is that remember one thing: whatever we receive from the Holy Imam, whether it is Jura, or whether it is Chanta, or whether it is Abi Safa, whatever grace, whatever mercy, whatever blessing, whatever barakat is coming from the Noor, from Mola Bapa himself, it's a blessing, it's a mercy, it's a grace. It is the penetration of the divine will into the material realm, which transforms it as a grace, mercy, blessing, protection, and which we partake of, and which creates the miracle in our body, mind, and spirit. Look at it this way. And I hope, if this makes sense, it will alleviate your fear that you will not get that kind of contamination in Jamaat Khana. But please always remember, whatever it may be, follow the guidance and directive our beloved Imam has given to the Jamaat, and those of the institutions that have been made responsible to see the Jamaat is in compliance with those guidance and whatever other rules and matters related to it. And if you have any further question, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Fatima. Fatima's iPad. Are you ready to ask your question, Fatima?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yalima, Dr. Hashim.
Molali Madat.
I love to read Ginans, but there are so many complicated words I cannot understand. So where do I get all the meaning of those Ginans?
You know, Ginans are not just words, although that's where they begin, so to speak. And I would say, if you are reading the Ginans, let's say if they have been published in the Gujarati script, then if you have access to a very good dictionary, that would be one avenue for self-study.
Okay.
But I would also say to you this: if you are an avid reader of the Ginans and you are seeking the meanings, then I would say you can consult other Vaizins in the Jamaat, wherever they may be, and ask help from them. And there is a good chance that these Vaizins may have access to these Ginans and to the meanings or to the gist, and may share it with you, and that might help you, that may help you understand the gist and maybe go from there. I fully realize this is a very technical study, very technical thing, but my conviction is that if you make some effort and you give it some thought, some concentration, sometimes it doesn't come out immediately, but if you persist on it, and as I said, please consult and dialogue with others, at least those who know about it. They will indicate to you the right way to try to understand and seek. Now, if you have something specific that you need to know, you can post it you can send it as a question. And if I'm able to, I will dig out that particular Ginans, and maybe at some point during a Q&A, we can bring it up for the benefit of everyone else. But don't just wait for the Q&A. I would say, please consult, other Vaizins and teachers who probably will have some inkling and background and some ideas to share with you so you can move forward in your studies. And keep digging, keep studying. And one of the secrets about understanding the Gnan intellectually, making sense logically, is to sing it or listen to it and sing with it. Because in the rhythm of the Gnan, in the singing of the Gnan, in the melody of the Gnan, is enclosed certain keys. When said in the right words, in the right way, it unlocks the sense and the meaning in the mind. It's an inner idiosyncrasy, inner peculiarity and grace that is in the Gnans.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Doli Kabani, you are next to ask your question. Doli?
Yes, I was going to ask Missionary Saib, thank you so much for everything. We really enjoy listening to you. But this is unrelated question. I have so many Hazrimam's photographs, all nicely framed when he wasn't married, and the kids, Nurani family, then Begum Inara and Begum Salima. So many photographs. What do you do with it? I live in an apartment and not so much space to just keep storing it.
Yes. I've had that question before. And some time back, I had posed this question to some of our institutions. And I was guided by saying that if you cannot store them and you do not need them anymore, so there are two things. You can either give them to other people who may appreciate them, not that you don't appreciate them, but who appreciate them in a sense who would love to have them, to hang them into their own places, or you share with family members, family, friends, and relatives. Or you can contact your local institutions, and apparently, I don't know what the guidance is, but they might have some instruction or some mechanism that they will accept that from you, and they may have a way to share it with other Jamati members or basically deal with it. So either share or contact your local institutions for more advice and guidance on what you can do with it.
I don't have any family. I'm in North Van.
Yes.
Go to headquarters.
Yes.
And all my neighbors, I'm 70-year-old, they all have same problem.
Yeah.
And one time when Khano was not close, I took some to Khane, so some people took it.
Yes.
But now you can't take it.
Exactly. That's why I say. That's why I say.
Who would be the institution I would call?
Well, if it's related to photograph, I think you can call either our local council or the local Tariqa board, and someone from there might guide you. And it's very possible whenever the opportunity arises, and they will tell you when. And if they have a way that this can be displayed for the Jamaat or members who would like to have them, then that may be an avenue. Look, I can't give you any definite answers because given the circumstance, but these are some of the avenues available.
Yeah.
So please seek further guidance, please seek further advice, and this way, hopefully, they can guide you rightly what to do with them.
Okay. Even the firmans, like it's in the form of paper, not the book. Book I'm keeping. In Gujarati, my children don't read and they're all married.
Yes.
But not the book. I'm not talking about the book now. Yes. But the firmans, when in headquarters, Khane, I was the volunteer there.
Yes.
I still am, but I'm over 70. So that they had told me to shred even what Farmans they read in Jamaat Khane.
Yes.
When this comes to kitchen, I work in the kitchen. They say to shred it. So should I do that? What all the Farman written brown TV, honey? They are brown and.
Yes. I suggest to you this: you can make a phone call to headquarters Mukhi Sahib, and if that is the instruction they have, that you should shred for safety preservation purpose, and follow the direction your Jamaat Mukhi Sahib, Kamariya Sahib will give you.
Okay, you shred it and put it in garbage. What can you do?
Call Mukhi Sahib. Let him guide you how you should do it.
Okay, shukran. Truly grateful for all the knowledge you share with us.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ya Ali Madad.
Next one is Shiraz Datu. Shiraz, are you ready to ask?
Yes, okay. Yes. Yeah, Ya Ali Madad ALWAAZ.
Mulali Madad Shiraz, nice to hear from you.
Nice to see you again. I have a Ginan here by Pir Shams, yeah? Satpant Voro Vira Alagana Raye.
Yes.
Yeah. And in the last but one stanza, it says, Rikisar Jani, Saibe Parda Kolya.
Yes.
Parda Kolya, Saibe Nazare Sumilia. My question is, who is Sahib and who is Rikisar here? Who is the Sahib who thought that Rikisar is behind the curtain? He opened the window, the curtain. And what did he see? What did he see there? I need a little bit of explanation, please.
Rikisar refers to the true believers. The true believers who are in the path of spiritual search. And this particular verse by Holy Pir Shams Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam refers to the whole, it's a disclosure by the Holy Pirs that this Rikisa, the true believer who is in the path of spiritual search, when their search culminates into the recognition, Sahib refers to the Imam himself. So when the Imam is being recognized, the curtain that exists between the believer and the Holy Imam is lifted. And when that curtain is lifted, it is the full recognition of the Imam that is bestowed upon that believer. And that is the highest gift spiritually the believer receives when he is able to recognize the Holy Imam in his full bloom. So we are basically talking the recognition of the soul with the Nur.
Okay, so can this be compared to the Mihraj of the Prophet? That when he went up there, he saw somebody, behind a curtain, and then a hand comes out. Can it be compared to the same?
Yes.
That he had the recognition, and also to go a little bit further. I don't know whether it's the right thing to say it or not. But on the next day of Mihraj, I've read it somewhere, and I could be wrong, that when Rasulullah came down first time in his life, he said, Ali Sayyallah.
Yes. Now remember, the Holy Prophet always knew that from the very beginning. But this was to teach us the meaning. And in fact, the Holy Prophet, excuse me, the Holy Prophet was instructed not to reveal the inner secret of this Mihraj. At least not publicly, but to the Mu'mins, yes. Yes, you are correct, because in the experience of Mihraj, when the Holy Prophet reached that seventh heaven, so to speak, and he reached the throne of God, Allah's throne, this Arsh al-Azim that the Holy Quran mentions. And what did he see? He saw it was Mawla Murtaza Ali Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam who was on the throne And on the throne was seated Mullah Murtaza Ali, on the throne of Allah. And he said, this is the same Murtaza Ali that is here in the world as the Imam. And therefore, that became the symbolism to understand the highest degree of realization of the experience of Mi'raj. But always remember, such experiences and even utterances are kept in the heart. We never take it out of the heart, because taking it out will render it septic. And if people don't understand, they will create problems for you. So you are right in your understanding, thinking, but it's important to always keep it in that right context. And you are right, this can be equated, under this last part of the verse of this Ginan, to this experience of Mi'raj. So thank you for this excellent question.
Can I add something else, or is it no time?
There are so many people waiting.
Okay,
And
not to worry. Next time.
Yeah, next time you
because
can.
there is a part 2 to this, but next time we'll do it.
You can also submit it in the chat, and it will be addressed in the next session, quick Q&A session. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next question, Nasim Chunara, are you ready? Nasim?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
Yali Madat.
Mulali Madat.
Yeah, I have to say Yali Madat always to use missionary side. That's
I
okay.
welcome. I welcome.
So
There is
nice,
nothing better,
really.
nothing
So
better
happy
to
to
say
see
Yali
you
Madat.
and hear you. It's a really something God grace on us that we can hear you. Really, thank you very, very much.
Shukran, Maulana.
Okay, one question before asking you one question. I can just add for that lady asking you a question for the Ginan meaning. At present, even I'm doing Ananta Kharo, and I go to Facebook, YouTube, and so there are Ali Sundarji. He has his verse 500, and there are the meanings of that literal meaning of the Ananta Kharo. And anything like if we go and put Ginan, and many missionaries like Abu Ali and Akbar Ali Babul, Dhanani, and I have some many missionaries, they have given Ginan with meaning in wires. So even she can just go through that wires of that Imam, of that Abu Ali and some of this, and even the YouTube is a very good source of find anything meaning or anything something. I don't know, I can't find your wires on YouTube. I can find Ali Adani, anybody, Khalil Adani, anybody, but not you. So I feel that even you should be there on YouTube. Really, we want you on YouTube, please. This is my humble request.
Your suggestion is an excellent one in terms of other great wise-in and missionaries present and even those of the past.
Yes.
They have taken the pain and the ability to teach meanings of Ginans in biases and other contexts. And I think that is an excellent source. And since you talked about YouTube, I have to mention, you know that the episodes by Ginan Guru.
Yeah, I
yeah,
checked.
They also, when the Ginans have been recited side by side, they give the meanings of the Ginans.
Yes, yes.
And I know some people have often said to me that, oh, they've read a different meaning or they've read a different gist and so on. And it may well be, but I said, you know what? Meanings sometimes have different layers of interpretation. So not to close one's mind, but if there are any concerns about any specific meaning, they can send it back to Ginan Guru for them to know what it is. And or you can post it in the chat or send a question so that I can look at it and maybe consult them and see if there is a different way to express the meaning. And remember, at the moment, because of the way in which things are organized, there isn't one single text you can go to say, well, that is the meaning. So it's a good thing that you consult other Vaizins and other teachers that were, of the past, and many today are in different places who like to teach meanings of Gnan. Like I recently was heard from some of the people. They've been listening to Brahm Prakash by,
Yes.
I think it's ALWAAZ Dr. Shiraz Ismail.
Yes.
And who's doing an amazing work.
Yes.
And very difficult Gnan to explain. But this is the way we have to remain open to understand the meaning and the interpretation of what we are doing.
Exactly.
And this will eventually add up into our mind, but never hesitate to go back and ask a question if you did not understand or if you're confused about it, because the aim is to remove confusion. But your suggestions are welcomed, and thank you for bringing up this new dimension. Thank you.
Okay, I have my question now. Nowadays, actually from 5 to 6 months, we are at home. And just now you were talking about COVID, so I remember the question from that topic, that we were used to go on Zoom, and like we used to make a group and we used to recite our dua, and like in a group, like 50 people or 100 people. But the institution had guided us that you can't do this all, and they had stopped. So I was wondering, is it, but we had stopped because as soon as who was the main in Atlanta, she was holding this tasbih and dua and all, but we never used to say khana vada, nothing. Just a Gnan, dua, tasbih, that's it. And they got a call from Huzur staff that what you all are doing is not right. It is against Maula Bapa's Farman. And as soon as the phone came, we stopped. But I wanted to ask you, because you are the very right person to give me the answer for this question, that is it that we shouldn't join any of this class? Because now we are at home. There are many groups have coming up, like join our Gnan group, and they just recite Hazari, Sultan Muhammad Shah Farman. Like 24 hours, there are some telephone lines that we can hear the Farman from Maula, Kalame Maula and all. And then they have lectures on that. So what do you tell me? Because according to your guidelines, we have stopped. Only now we recite dua with my family at home, with my children and with my grandson. That's it. But I want to know why it is wrong. Because many people they are just alone living in the house, and it becomes so difficult for them to recite dua, tasbih, farman, Gnan, venti. But when we are in group, at least 10 people, 15 people, everything we can do. We feel that we are in Jamaat Khana, but I don't know why. So please put light on this question. I'll be very grateful to you. Thank you very much.
It's a bit of a difficult question, and I said difficult because people might feel that we are trying to constrain their freedom of practice. But look, I'll try my best to try to explain.
Sure.
It's very important that we understand that our practices have to be either very personal and private, meaning within our home environment, or we do it in congregation in our Jamaat Khana. Both of these possibilities have always been there.
Right.
Now, because of the circumstances, it appears many groups have mushroomed to create an alternative bridge between the two. And I would say to you this: remember, our practices are always guided by our beloved Imam.
Right.
No one can dispute that.
Exactly.
Secondly, our institutions equally act on the basis of the guidance given by the Imam.
Okay.
And we must be careful, not, even though we are well-meaning, even though inadvertently even though the conditions you have expressed about people being lonely and so on, even though those conditions may exist,
Okay.
remember that these are our Batini ceremonies.
Exactly.
And we will not go into any platform to make them Zahir. That's very important. And that's why Mola Bapa has reopened Jumat Khana, and those who have the blessing to eventually start attending them. But at the same time, those who cannot go, in the privacy of your home, not in a public platform, you can do all the practices you want in the privacy of your home, because the medias are not necessarily the right platform to have the full expression of what we want to do.
Okay.
And you have to understand, it is Mola Bapa's prerogative to decide how he wants it.
Okay.
And until Mola Bapa says so, we remain duty-bound
Okay.
to what we have been guided to do.
Okay. Thank you very, very much.
You're
Always
welcome.
be happy, healthy, and blessed and safe, sir. Yali Mother. Yali.
Thank you.
Next question is from KK. KK, are you ready to ask your question?
Yes, Yali Mother, Missionary Sahib.
Mulali Madat.
Thank you for your seva. I have a question regarding, I have no issues about going to Khane or drinking nyaz, or however, I have a medical problem regarding masks. I cannot wear a mask for over a minute or two because I've fainted before. I have breathing problems with asthma and stuff. So does it mean if I'm saying my prayers at home, I'm not going to benefit? Am I at a total disadvantage? Because I don't want to go to Khane and keep pulling my mask down in order for me to jeopardize other people. So my only concern is, can I pray at home in this situation?
Yes. And your understanding is correct. In other words, if you have to be into any place, including Jamaat Khana, where wearing a mask is mandatory, and you are not able to wear that mask or comply or be in compliance with the instructions in Jamaat Khana, do not go to be out of compliance. That would not be good. Only go if you can be in compliance. Secondly, if you are obliged to stay home because of your circumstance, never ever believe that your prayers that you say at home are not accepted by Mola Bapa himself. Okay. And in order for you to be sure, you can, if you like, you don't have to, but if you like, you can call your local Mukhi Kamariya Sahib.
Okay.
And tell them, Mukhi Sahib or Mukhianima, I am not able to come to Jamaat Khana for the following reason. I'm saying my duas at home with my family or personally, and will you please give me the blessing to accept it? Under the circumstance, Mukhi Kamariya Sahib, Mukhiani Kamariya Sahiba may decide and will decide how to guide you and how to accept it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's a very good idea. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Rashida Tejani, you are next to ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Hassam, thank you so much for all your seva.
Amen.
Every time I'm in cloud 9 when I'm listening to you. I just want to share something with you because my mother was very spiritual and she read Ragmara every day.
Wow.
And every day. And then she was legally blind, and she was missing it so much. And she says, I don't know what to do. I'm missing my Ragmara. So just for your information, or for information of other people who have elder parents who cannot read or do anything, I audio taped the whole grunt of Ragmara for her so she could listen to it on the tape every day. And she was so thankful, and so much dua I got from her. Not only that, she always used to say that if you have any difficulties or problems in life, always recite Ananta Karo, because it will help you heal with your problems. So I used to do that. And again, she was hospitalized, and I asked her, what do you want me to do for you? And she said, just bring the Ananta Karo book and read me as many verses as you can. And I read it to her for 22 days in a row until she passed away. Just for your information.
That is so amazing, Rashida, and what a great spiritual work to do that you have done for your
mom,
for your mother.
Yes.
And there is no greater blessing than when another individual appreciates the spirituality that is added to them and the comfort that they gain out of it, and the balance and the knowledge they gain out of it. So Shukr Maula, I think it's very exemplary what you've done. Thank you for sharing that.
Much. It's very rewarding and healing for me too. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yali
Next is Salma. Salma's iPad. Salma? Okay. Nelly, are you ready to ask your question?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yalimudat ALWAAZ, thank you for all your seva that you do. May Mola bless you.
Thank you.
So when we purchase Nandi, the money that we purchase Nandi with, what is the benefit that that money goes towards for the soul? Like, what does Mola Bapa give credit to with that purchase of the money used?
Yes. You know, because it's related to our practice in Jamaat Khana. I know this question has come many times, and I don't want to seem I'm avoiding the question, but let me just tell you briefly. Anything that is in Jamaat Khana, anything and everything that is in Khane is a barakat that comes from Maula himself, including Nandi. Nandi that we receive, that we obtain, and I'm being very specific with you. I'm using the word Nandi that we obtain. Use the word purchase. I understand what you mean, but the idea is that everything that comes in Jamaat Khana, it's a barakat in the house of Imam-e-Zaman. And when we obtain a Nandi, it is a barakat that of which we have made a sacrifice to receive. So the benefit of it is this, that number one, in doing so, it compensates the sacrifice you have made to obtain that barakah. To use your language, that the amount you have given for that Nandi, that amount compensates for any lack or gap that might have been in your submissions during the context of your practices. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Does that mean like our omissions in the song, or like?
Yes,
okay.
that could be one. Let's say inadvertently, unconsciously, totally unknown to you, that if there has been some kind of an error, then based on a very early farman and guidance that Imam had given us, it compensates that kind of gap and that kind of error.
Wow, Imam has a big heart. Shukr, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Dr. Hassam, we have still four persons who have raised their hands. It's getting to 10 o'clock.
Yes.
What do you want to do? Would you like to address the questions?
Are they in any way connected to anything we said today, or are they?
I can ask them. There are two of them. It's their second turn, but there are two other which it's their first time. So I will ask them. Okay.
Okay.
Maula Jipari, are you ready to ask your question? Maula Jipari, are you ready to ask your question?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Dr. Hassam, it was so nice to see you giving this presentation.
Thank you.
Just wanted to let you know that I am back in Toronto.
Oh, wonderful.
So I hope that you will connect with me soon.
Inshallah, for sure, I will.
Thank you very much.
Thank
May
you.
you continue to be blessed.
Ameen. Thank you. Shukran.
Almas Ratani, you are next. Almas Ratani.
Yes, याली मदद
मौलानी मदद
ये मुझे खाली एक वो लेडी जो गिनान की मीनिंग का बोल रही थी कि मुझे डिफिकल्ट लगती है, तो राय कमालुद्दीन और इसकी वाइफ ने 12 वॉल्यूम गिनान के गुजराती में, उर्दू में और इंग्लिश में विथ मीनिंग इन लोगों ने निकाला है सीडी के साथ। तो अगर वो उसको चाहे तो वो वहां से वो लेके वो मेल भी करते हैं अपने को, तो मेल करके ने वो मंगवा सकती है वो लेडी, जिसमें इंग्लिश में भी है, गुजराती में भी मीनिंग है गिनान की और उर्दू में भी है। बस मुझे ये बोलना था। I have no question. Just.
No, thank you for that comment. I know enormous work has been done by Missionary Saib Kamaluddin. Enormous work, enormous, and I think it is serving as a very good base for many people to draw information and knowledge from there. Thank you for sharing that and making it available. Thank you.
Thank you, Yali Madat.
Salma's iPad, you're ready to ask the question?
I'm ready, Yali Madat. This is in reference to the question that you answered a few minutes ago about the group meetings to do recitations and dua and all that. And I totally agree with your answer with that. The problem that I've always had is that the amount of things that are on YouTube that are just totally available for anybody to access. And if we have all that, like there's dua, there's ginans, there's vaizes, there's all kinds of things, how come we can keep continuing to keep that going? Whereas we want to keep the privacy of our faith to ourselves, and we can't meet in groups. Like, I don't have a problem with it, but I just wish that somebody would do something about the enormous amounts of our religious activities on YouTube. What do you have to say about that?
My answer is straight and simple. Just because things are in YouTube doesn't make it right.
No.
So the individuals concerned have to ask themselves what kind of responsibility they are taking, and are they functioning within the context of what is the prerogative of the Imam to the Jamaat to do. So it doesn't make it right if someone takes the liberty to basically do whatever they want. That is not something which necessarily make it. I understand where you're coming from, and I know it's of a concern that you're expressing, but it is there, and it doesn't necessarily make it right. And I think this is the reason why.
If I can just interrupt, I agree with you. It's there and it doesn't make it right. But if our institutions can stop people from saying dua together on a screen, don't our institutions have any power over something like that?
You know, institutions are always there for the benefit and for the guidance of the Jamaat based on the directive given by the Imam of the time. And that is what institutions try to do to the best of their ability, to the best of their resources, and to the best of the support they get. So if you ask, do they have any power? Now, you know, I do not believe institutions necessarily exercise quote unquote, you know, the word power. I do believe institutions do, to the best of their ability, based on the authority given by the Imam, they try to act accordingly. So I said to you that it may be something that is being looked at. I don't know for sure because I have not been privy to such thing, but it is very possible that things are being viewed, reviewed, things are being observed, things are being considered, and maybe how would all this thing come together? Because I think you and I know none of this is being done with any bad intent, but at the same time, as I said, it doesn't make it necessarily right. But again, will you and I decide this is right and this is wrong? We can't. We can't. We can only express our opinions, we can only express our views, and we basically leave it to if at all the institutions are involved, if at all, for them to look at it and see what they intend to do in terms of guiding the people or the individuals, or what to do with it. But I agree with you, things are there, and I don't think there is a clear-cut answer that I always like to give, but in this case we will have to just wait and observe and see how we are able to deal with the circumstance and the issues.
Thank you. Thank you. I just feel that this gives people the opportunity, people outside our faith, within even the Muslim Ummah, gives us an opportunity to point fingers at us as to how wrong we are about what we're doing. And I don't think that, in my mind, that is just unacceptable. But I totally agree with your answer. We have no control over it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Inshallah, Mawla will guide us.
Inshallah.
Yeah, Ali Madad.
Madad.
I just want to make a comment regarding what's on the internet. We live in the age of technology, and all the information we gain is now through the internet. So I personally feel like, for example, ALWAAZ WAAZs, I would never have access to them had they not been on the internet. Having said that, also the information, the literature, the knowledge we get from our Jamaat Khana, from our institutions by way of lectures and what have you, is very limited. Like sometimes we are not even allowed information, a specific information you ask. For example, I had asked the Tariqa board that I wanted to know, there was, when Hazrat Imam's Darbar, there was the Salawat, and then there was an extension of the prayer. I don't know what it was. Somebody told me about it. I kind of vaguely remember there was something special. And I was told that we can't share this information with you. I'm asking as an individual directly, not for a group, it's for personal information. I'm in Ismaili, I'm entitled to that information. So a lot of things, a lot of information and knowledge we do not get from our council, we do not get from the Tariqa board. So I feel it would be a shame if all of a sudden the institutions, and I hope that Mullah Bapa is on my side. I so pray, and I'm saying I hope that the words are coming out the way he wants them to come out, that they don't get the power to stop people from sharing information. And on the other hand, if other people know about our faith and if they don't like it, so be it. Like, haven't we passed that age of being reticent about defending our faith?
Right.
So that's interesting.
You have raised multiple things, but let me first of all address the issue of the information that you are seeking from the Tariqa board. I am pretty confident that in your own privacy, if you were to request information for you to read or understand, and I don't mean information that you can take home. I mean that if you went to the appropriate offices of the Tariqa board, or perhaps that same information, if it is in Jamaat Khana, by the permission of Mukhi Kamariya Sahib, Mukhani Kamarani Sahib in Jamaat Khana, that you could sit there for the time that you have and read and try to understand or try to partake of that information. I believe if information has been shared with the Jamaat in some way and you want to see that information again, I do not believe anyone will say no to you. But remember, institutions have responsibilities. And as institutions, they have to abide by that responsibility. And sometimes if they appear strict, there is a reason for it. And they don't often make that reason obvious to the Jamaat, which is not necessary. But the Jamaat has to have some level of understanding that the institutions are guided by certain rules and restrictions they may have, and they will go according to that. So, and we must respect if they say they can't do it, they can't do it. I mean, that is within the prerogative of the institutions. But as an individual, it doesn't stop you going to the institution and said, look, I understand the restriction, but you know, can you at least explain to me or share with me or have somebody sharing with me? I don't think the institutions will say no. I think they'll be happy maybe to have someone there or maybe allow you access to read if it is something that you wanted to do and something to learn more about, whether it is the salawat or whatever information that you are seeking. So I think that kind of personal contact within a private space would be desirable to allow you to have the information that you would love if the institution has a process and they have some mechanism to be able to do that, and I think they probably do. Now, with respect to the other observations you made, that are we past this particular phase of doing things or that about, you know, many of the things of our faith are in the public domain. Look, you and I and everyone knows this is not under the control of any individual whatsoever, even to pass comments to say, are we past or not? Basically, what I'm saying, to the best of my knowledge, to the best of my understanding, this is the prerogative of the Imam of the time. Mullah Bapa himself knows if he wants to open the doors, if he wants to lift the curtains, if he wants to go into a public media and do whatever he wants to do as the Imam about our faith, well, that's his prerogative. And therefore, I say to you, it's always better to be in the air of caution, and that is, look at what the Imam is saying. Because when it comes to matters of faith, it is the sole and exclusive prerogative of the Imam of the time. And whether we are past a certain line or point or historical point, I don't think that is difficult for you to analyze. Look at, for example, the enormous work that has been done by the Institute of Ismaili Studies. Look at, for example, Mullah Bapa's other institutions, be it the AKDN, the AKF, be it the Aga Khan Trust for Culture, even in the way in which the Jamaati institutions are translating that work for the benefit of the Jamaat. It gives you an idea where Mullah Bapa wants the Jamaat to be, and also people from the outside are more and more and more knowledgeable about the work that Mullah Bapa is doing through this institution, and they know very well within the Jamaat and the community how we are. So I think my answer to you, and I say with utmost respect and humility from the comments you made, is to say remain open and remain observant and always analyze and see what is being said and what is being done. And to what degree and to what extent things should be the way sometimes we think, we can only find the measuring yardstick out there, because we see in a constant basis how Maulana Bapa, as the Imam of the time, and I give you a very clear example. Look at Hazrat Imam's Canadian parliamentary speech that he gave in Parliament.
Yes.
And you will see that is a complete, in a way, a holistic disclosure based on an amazing framework of understanding. And you can see that is the initiative Maulana Bapa himself took upon him, as the Imam. And we are learning and learning and learning from it. Look at the Diwan of the Imamat in Portugal, the seat of the Imamat in Portugal. Look at that example. It's an amazing thing. But we read, we observe, we see what Maulana Bapa does. And that becomes our yardstick and our guiding light. And remember, the institutions are always on the constant directive and direction of the Imam of the time. And they will come forward to tell and explain the Jamaat things that we sometimes don't know, because the Imam is chosen to do that through the institutions. So again, we must remain listening, open, and very open to see what messages are being conveyed for our understanding, for the Jamaat in the context of where we are living and in the people that we are living with.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And for giving me additional knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Zora Chagani. Zora Chagani's iPhone. Zora?
Yali Madad, Dr. Hasham.
Molani Madad.
I just have one request. I love your sessions and gaining so much knowledge from it. In the last session, September 1st question answer session, I missed that one. So I would really appreciate if I could get that session.
Yeah, it will
if a
be
recording of that session I can have or something. I'm looking forward to
you
it.
will have access to it in the link where all the sessions are made available.
But it's not there, and I've been waiting like a week or two.
It's not available yet because it has not been edited yet, but it will be.
Okay.
When they are available, they will be uploaded on that link. Okay, and I will inform you if you are on email.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yali Madad.
Next is Ajiz Andani, who is raising her hand. Ajiz Andani.
She's on mute, Lakshmi.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute her.
There you are.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Hello, Yali Madad missionaries.
Molani Madad.
Okay, Molani Madad.
Thank you very much for such a brilliant explanation and question answers explanation. My question regarding significance of soul kara.
Yes.
So I just want the light on the soul kara, please.
This is a wonderful grant. It's one of the grants that we have, and it is voluminous. And this whole grant discusses many spiritual things and many aspects of the process of creation, and it is done in a dialogue form. So the idea is this, that when I just give you just one or two sentences for you to know, and you will see why it's a difficult thing just to bring it in a Q&A, that the 16 processes, if I can use that word, the 16 processes that encompasses the whole understanding of the creative power and creation itself is explained into 16 sections, or rather, this soul kara is related to these 16 levels of understanding of creation about everything that is there, meaning from spiritual to physical, and back to spiritual and everything in between. So it is complex, but not unexpressible. So there are so many things on my table, so to speak, in that regard. And I'm looking at this Granth, and at some point I'm going to make a summary and hopefully bring it, because it requires explanation of each one of these karas. And then it will be understood that what it is. So
sorry to interrupt. Depends. I of the Ginan, or I've heard from somebody, I don't know. Ke char kara ame gatne aipa che ne biji kara ama. Yeah. So I was like bit stuck in.
So the whole idea of the divine force and energy, or divine power, if you like. So it's divided between the Jamaat, Mukhi Kamariyas, and Mola Bapa himself.
Okay.
You understand? So that way, sometime when we say, what power has the Jamaat has? So this Granth explains the Jamaat has 4. Mukhi Kamariyas have more. But the whole of it is controlled by the Imam. So there are many spiritual things in there that needs to be expressed. That's why I don't want to create any confusion by just giving you fragments, but it needs to be looked at in this right context.
So can we have a session on that, please?
Inshallah, like I said, these body of knowledge, like this Soul Kara or Moment Chitverni Granth or the Holy Dasavta, they are such voluminous Granthas or Ginans that it's not possible even in one lecture session, unless we really just have a talk about it, generally speaking, to say about it. But the details of it are so much that we may require 5, 6, 8 sessions to cover it properly. So I am seeking advice, I'm seeking feedback, I'm wondering how we can best do it. I constantly ask the host of the presentations who receive many feedback and see how do we do things. And that way we are able to maybe, but it's a very good idea, and maybe a good way would be to begin by giving a general idea what it is all about before we go into details.
So is this Granth is available?
Which one?
Sodkara Granth?
Not that I know of. Perhaps in Gujarati it may be available in print, but these are some of the Ginans or Granthas we unfortunately don't recite in Jamaat Khana at the present moment. And in some places they do, but because of the complexities and the way in which it is organized, people who recite these Granthas and Ginan, they learn it, and then they will recite selective parts.
Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we have 2 persons who are still have their hand risen. So, shall I take them?
Yes.
Okay. So, Habiba Batliwala, sorry. Habiba?
Yes, I'm right here. Yali
Madat.
Yeah, this was, I have a quick question. One is about the Ginan Ragmala. Where do I get it and how do I get it? The audio, she was about the rendering of audio by Rashida Tijani. So
yes.
She said it. So I would like to get it from her, one.
Yes.
And then Rai Kamaluddin missionaries, Ginan meanings and those words also, I want that audio also. So how do I get that? Okay, and the third my thing was about, it's a very, I don't know whether I should ask you such a question in public. Actually, there was a farman long back about broccoli. It was Maulana Bapa had commented about, he said that this is an ugly fruit that you would be eating. And then he talked about it shouldn't be eaten, that it has a big head and a small legs, and that the next generation would have children growing up with big heads and small legs. So, and then he turned it all into a joke. He said, doctors are saying that it is very healthy. And well, doctors are right. So that's the way Maulana Bapa said. Now, my brother says that Ali ki bolna hikmat, Ali ka chup rehna hikmat, Ali ki mazak karna bhi hikmat hai. So this is something he said in a joke, but he really meant it that we shouldn't be eating broccoli. Now my sister says that no, that was just a joke. So I'm just a little confused, like what would be the right approach? Because even I think Ali ka bolna hikmat hai. So he said it's something in a joke because that's the way the world believes, looks at it. So I want your view.
You know, you caught me by surprise about the broccoli incident in the Farman that Maulana Bapa spoke to. I don't remember all the words being said about it. So I will try to find it and look at it, and maybe in one of my next session, give you a response if I can. And you are right. You are right on the general observation, if I have understood you correctly, that, you know, even though Maulana Bapa makes us laugh, and truly so he does, and this is such an amazing example of how Maulana Bapa makes us laugh. I say to you that there is always inner wisdom, just like you said, inner meaning, inner understanding, what Maulana Bapa tells us. Right. So let us discover that, and let me find out a bit more. Let me look at the farman that he made, and if I can, then I will respond to you, because you're right. I know this notion of broccoli had come, and but for some time now I haven't seen it, so I need to review it.
Okay.
I can see this farman was at in Lisbon.
Lisbon, yes.
On the last in Golden Jubilee.
Yes.
Golden Jubilee farman in Lisbon. Salima Surani Lalani. Salima?
Yeah, Ali Madad.
Mulali Madad.
Missionary Sahib, I have a question from the Ginan by Pir Hassan Shah. Mewari Wari Sataguru To Balihari. In this Ginan, there are verses regarding Jaifar, Long and Supari. Pir has given an example of Jaifar, Long and Supari. So I wanted to know the significance of Jaifar, Long and Supari in the deeper meaning, in the Batin meaning. Can you please explain this?
Yes. Once again, there is a lot of symbolism in the Ginanic literature by the Pirs. And these symbolism are always in accordance with a certain context. And in this case, the Holy Pirs, Pir Hassan Kabiruddin, is speaking about these elements that are in nature. These are food-based, and they represent a certain symbol in our transformation from the material to the spiritual and its effects. Okay. So I would say to you that I'm making a note of it. I need to look at the Ginan itself, because this, remember, this is not mentioned simply in one verse per se. There is a context to it.
Yes.
When you look at the whole Ginan.
Yes.
So for me to give you the inner meaning of it, I need to go back into the Ginan, and it's a really amazing Ginan. And when his Ginan is recited, like all Ginan is said, They send goose pimples and they really enlighten me about what is going on. So I will do so. I'm asking Lakshmi to send me a note later to look at his Gnan, and then inshallah I will come back to you with a proper understanding and context. And again, you know, because we are doing a Q&A, and this is appropriate what you ask, but we are almost at the end of the session. I don't want to take 10 or 15 minutes now just to explain that. So I will do that in my next session.
Some questions related to karma. Would you like to address that? No?
Hopefully, if they're not too long, karmic questions are always...
Okay, so, and the sound one?
Yes, let's address the sound ones.
Okay. Is the sound payable on gifts? On dowry, is it to be paid by the groom or bride family?
And now you have to understand this in a proper framework. The whole concept of submitting the song, if it is on earning, for example, I know that's not a question, but if it is based on earning, it is on your net earning. And I fully know that there are lots of people who define the word net in a certain way, but that's up to you. Are the son payables on gift? Yes, because gift is considered a kind of earning, not necessarily monetarily, but in other kind. So yes, you can estimate the value of gift and make the son out of that, or you can take a gift of equivalent value and give that as your the son. As far as dowry is concerned, now, I'm not sure that dowry is by way of a promissory note, or if in fact, in actual fact, if somebody receives a dowry because of the circumstance, then yes, it is, the son is due on dowry because it is considered a kind of an income received.
Okay, and how do we do the sound of our breath?
How do?
Do we do the sound of our breath?
Breath?
Breathing, yeah, breath.
You know, breath actually means ruh, or if you like, your soul. They are connected. They're the same root. So, put into that framework, we contextualize our life today. I'm talking about today's. We contextualize and frame our life on the basis of the work that we do materially, and that is symbolized or translated into the earnings that we get. So if you are thinking about breath, which you need in terms to remain alive, to do that work, and by the action of that work, you generate your income from which you submit your dasan, then it is taken care of. But there isn't a single concept whereby you decide to say, well, I need to estimate the number of breaths within which I need to give my dasan, except many people, and this is not a requirement that I've seen in our faith, but many people voluntarily decide that they will fulfill certain work, and they will expect in their intention that this work may be accepted as their dasan.
Okay, I think we will end the session now. Thank you very much for your untiring and efforts and commitment to share your knowledge and enlighten us all. There is lots of thirst among all the participants to learn from you. So we thank you from the bottom of our hearts and pray that may Mawla bless you with Hakikat Zisamad, give you strength and understanding to share always your knowledge with the Jamaat. And we pray also, may He bless you with barakat, lots of barakat in your deen and dunya.
Ameen. Ameen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mola bless you all with
Amen.
barakat,
Amen.
with hakikati samaj.
Amen.
Mola bless you all with divine protection.
Amen.
May you have no difficulty and calamities in your life.
Amen.
May Mola accept your ibadat.
Amen.
Mola accept your prayers.
Amen.
Mola Bapa's hand always be upon you to guide,
Amen.
to protect you,
Amen.
to keep you safe,
Amen.
to keep you content, to
Amen.
keep you happy.
Amen.
May Mola Bapa bless you with the fulfillment of all your wishes spiritually and materially.
Amen.
May Mola Bapa bless you with strong, strong, strong like a mountain iman and faith.
Amen.
Mola bless you with staunchness in your dasand.
Amen.
Mola bless you with correctness in your dasand.
Amen.
Mola always keep you in peace and laughing and happy.
Amen.
And Mola bless you with zahiri batini didar.
Amen.
Amin. Amin.
Shukran. Shukran. Thank you.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Mola bless you. Mola bless all
Amen.
the other co-hosts
Amen.
and everyone who participated today. Thank you for your time. And may the Jamaat's prayer today always be yours in every way and in every sense. May all your wishes be fulfilled. And Mola Bapa always look after you. And Mola Bapa bless you with karamat, blessing, barakah, and all the goodness of this world and the hereafter. And it goes for all our hosts and co-hosts and everyone who always are helping, and of course to every listener today.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you again. Thank you, Lakshmi. Yali